Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Cunningham Township Board for Monday, July 8th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu, Mr. Evans,
Here.
Ms. Hersey,
Here.
Ms. Colasetti,
Here.
Ms. Bishop, Ms. Wilkin,
Here.
Mr. Quisenberry, Mayor Marlin,
Here.
Supervisor Chenoweth,
Present.
Assessor Owana.
Here.
Thank you.
And let the record reflect Town Board Member Chandra Bishop has arrived. Next item, approval of minutes. We have no minutes attached for this month. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Presentations. There is no one in the audience for public participation. We'll move on to the committee to verify bills.
Good evening. So this last month, I just want to point out it was a closeout grant month, so you will see large numbers as we completed various grants at the end of the year. The town fund, we spent $80,117.02. In the general assistance fund, we spent $235,678.70, and the total was $315,795.72. You have a full bills report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? James.
Yeah, I have two questions about the bills. I noticed that in several positions, it looks like there were two payrolls on the same day for some staff.
So my guess, if we look at the payrolls on the same day, is they're divided across classes, because some staff members are classed to two different grants, and so we actually have to operate them. Is there a specific
They're in the
payroll?
assessor's office.
Oh, okay.
Can you point out specifically what you're...
Yep, I'm pulling it up here. Look at the first.
Oh, I see what you're looking at.
Yeah,
Yep,
so,
yes.
So Jada Harris on the.
I can
on the
explain.
7th got both $1,675 and $2,500.
Yes, that's because there's one regular paycheck and then all of our employees receive bonuses. It was one bonus distributed across two paychecks, and that's the two that you see listed in here on the payroll. The bonuses were for one, it being the end of the fiscal year, and two, we have just concluded our reassessment year, and we always distribute bonuses at that time.
Okay, so the question I have also is that, is that a general township practice to pay bonuses at the end of the fiscal year?
We specifically have it with the end of the reassessment year. It happens to be aligned with our fiscal year, so that's why we do it at that time.
Okay, what about, there were also similar payments like that in December.
Those were bonuses as well, smaller bonuses.
So how is it determined, do you have a policy or practice for determining how a bonus is paid, or is it paid regardless?
Well, I mean, we do pay bonuses regardless because people do have to have increases in their paychecks. As one, they become more accredited. We go by how long you've had your CIAO, which stands for Certified Illinois Assessing Officer Accreditation. That's essentially what you need to function for a property tax office. We also go by how much experience you have practically in your office, whether that be within our office or with other offices, any previous jobs people have worked. And then we also break it down by need.
Okay.
And we do make it very clear to all of our employees, and we're all in the same room when we discuss this, so everyone is aware as far as the need goes, how it's distributed.
So someone may say they have a financial burden or something, and you determine the bonus based on that?
Sometimes that is a portion of it, yes. And
Okay.
we are aware of everyone's specific situation in our office, as we only have about 4 people outside of myself working there.
And that's been a practice all along,
By all along, how long do you mean?
as long as you've been there, I guess?
Yes, as long as I've been there and even further.
Okay. Does the supervisor's office pay bonuses?
No, the only time we have paid out is during cure reimbursements, we were able to reimburse people's cell phone usage. So we processed it as a bonus in payroll, but it was actually for our actual expenses incurred.
So like a stipend?
It was, yeah, essentially,
Communications.
we had additional dollars through cure money, and so we were able to stipend. I think it was $300 a person, and it was flat for each person. They got exactly the same amount.
Okay.
I would
And so-
also, oh, I'm sorry. May I offer a specific comment? I'd also like to offer that specifically within the assessor's office, it's not very common to find people who understand property tax and who are willing to work for a jurisdiction as small as ours. So by paying out people these bonuses, not only is that an incentive to continue to stay in our office with their continued knowledge, not only of property tax, but of Cunningham Township specifically, but otherwise that money would just go to some program that otherwise would have to be a resource to help us do our job. We simply need the people who are in the office. We need their intellect. Specifically, we need their intellect. So these bonuses, in my eyes, yes, are necessary continually to make
Thank
sure
you.
that they stay.
Thank you for filling me in on that.
No problem.
And then the other question I had is, we have a travel item on here for Wayne Williams, reimbursement for travel. Is Wayne a full-time employee of the township?
No, he is not officially a full-time employee, but he does work full-time hours essentially as of late. We're going to have to revisit within our fiscal year 25 budget what the situation is, given that, one, we had somebody that was initially going to come on full-time, and they very suddenly told me just a few weeks ago that they are no longer going to do that, someone who was already involved with property tax for approximately 3 years. So that kind of changes things. And additionally, we have recently needed to move another full-time employee to part-time, as they have now gotten a different job, making them move to Chicago. So it's a little bit difficult in that Wayne has stepped up immensely in needing to supplement some of that work that needs to be supplemented in the office, given that change in situation that occurred very suddenly. So no, he is not officially full-time, I suppose you could say, but like, yes, he does function with full-time hours as of late, specifically because of how busy we've been concluding reassessment year.
Okay, and how long has he been doing that?
I would say approximately through May, maybe even March.
Okay, so when he traveled for us back in September, was he working full-time for us then?
No, he was not working full-time for us then, but I still do offer specific stipends to people who are traveling for the purpose of going to assessor-related either classes or events. And specifically, as we lost that person who was initially going to be coming on, there was room within our travel budget for him to be reimbursed for a class specifically that we had discussed earlier on in the fiscal year. I told him, hey, this is a risk that you're going to have to take in terms of paying for this, but if there's money left over within our budget, because it is directly related to things that we need within our assessment office, I will reimburse you for it if it's available at the end of the year. And he said, that's okay, I'll take that risk. And I said, okay.
So my understanding is he works for the assessor's office in Cook County.
Yes.
Have you talked with Cook County about splitting the costs for travel relating to assessor's duties, so that since he's their full-time employee?
Yeah, they do predominantly front the cost. This was one cost that I specifically have allowed him to have, in addition to costs that are related to the IAAO Illinois chapter specific membership, which is approximately $50, $60 a year. And if he goes to any of those events to represent our office in Chicago specifically, I will reimburse for that travel.
Okay. I just wanted to ask the question because I can tell you that in many public service organizations, if you're working full-time, multiple jobs, you have to disclose that, and there's usually a practice associated with that. I'm guessing we don't have a disclosure practice for the township for being employed full-time outside of your regular job.
So the supervisor's position is that essentially if someone would like to work outside of the hours, they're able to do so, but they need to disclose to me that they're doing that work. And so we have some people who do 5 to 10 hours of contractor jobs outside of it, but we're very strict in terms of the time that they do that work. The folks in my office, even those who are salaried, actually clock in and out so that we have clear time cards for every single person, whether they're salaried or hourly. That way, because for some reason, people have a habit of FOIAing our time cards. And so I've been very clear about making sure that all the time cards are up to date and that we can quantify everyone's work. So that is the supervisor's practice.
All right, thank you. I can tell you, as a University of Illinois employee, we have a process called the reporting of non-university activities that everybody has to go through, even for work like this, where we have to disclose both for conflict of interest reasons and for, I assume, if there was a problem, for documentation of how much time somebody is doing inside and out work. I want to make it clear, I have no concerns about someone using their time to work multiple jobs. People in all segments of our economy do that, and some have to. I just wanted to make sure that we have a process, even if it's informal, of disclosure so that everybody's aware of what's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the Town Fund and General Assistance Fund?
So moved.
Moved by Grace. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jaya. Further discussion? The clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Hersey?
Yes.
Ms. Colasetti?
Yes.
Ms. Bishop?
Yes.
Ms. Woken?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes. We'll move on to reports of officers.
Yes, I just had a couple of updates for the town board. Fred Grosser, who has been our township attorney, is retired. So he submitted his retirement. I met with the assessor's office, and we are looking, because the level of legal support we need is more complex as we've grown. We actually need people who know tenant rights, people who know immigrant rights, folks who know property taxes, folks who know township code. It's really it's a variety of needs. We are currently prospecting the different needs. Now, it may be that we can provide find one company that does it all, but my guess is that we won't. I want the town board to have access to an attorney so that you can request an attorney. It is still on demand, so if you were to demand an attorney or request an attorney tomorrow, I would make sure that you had someone. We do have several folks that we work with who have experience in government. But I just wanted to let you know formally that Fred had retired right after the notice of the Carl case. The Carl case has a few loose ends, and I'm receiving all of the documentation around that as supervisor, as transition, and I'm looking for legal support. The second thing I wanted to announce is that the budget process, as I had mentioned, because we submitted our grant applications, we pretty much have all of our notifications back about what we will be receiving. So we should be bringing you a budget in August for confirmation in September. I'll work with the clerk's office to make sure there's proper notice. I'm hoping it doesn't impact the dates of our calendar. We might have to have a special meeting, but we'll see if we can avoid that if possible. Let's see. I think there was a request from James that the budget conversation, I'm assuming the first conversation, be an hour long. So we can put the budget in your packet, and I forwarded that to the chair, the mayor, about having an hour-long meeting. That is certainly fine with our office. And then in terms of the supervisor's memo, I just want to mention, as we do the budget, we have a couple of challenges. The general assistance rate has gone up. We're almost at 100 general assistance cases, which is probably the highest we've been since COVID. And we have significant rental assistance. I've met with the managers of both of those programs, and we may need to constrain the criteria for eligibility for those programs to make sure that we can stay within our budget. So we expect to bring a balanced budget to you. If anything, we may do some spending out of surplus, but I would expect it to be very minimal with a plan to not continue that going forward. But yes, I'm with utility assistance, rental assistance, and general assistance. I have theories about what's going on, but I would say we are at an all-time high for all of those. Let's see, I do want to mention, so you can see the utility support, we're actually back up to 51. I think our highest was 59 in September of last year. The hotter it gets, the more we have to do that. Let's see. Oh, and I just wanted to highlight that we had the SMAS grant, which is a subrecipient grant with the city of Urbana. We did have some dollars left over. The focus was on rental assistance. We had some dollars remaining, and so we organized a food assistance event. We expected 50 immigrant families. We had 150 show up. 300 people in 3 hours outside of township, wrapped all the way around the township. I was surprised by that. It was large Spanish and French speakers. And we basically screened them for food assistance. And then we are providing gift cards to them with the remaining funds. So that was a fun event. I'm really glad that we were able to provide that. And we're providing $200 per household in assistance, which is what we had advertised. It was not a public advertisement. We sent it to 5 immigrant service partner organizations. It was a single email. And it was less than a week in advance, and we had 300 people show up. So just wanted to share that information in terms of the need that we're seeing in the community. That was a Champaign County specific event. Happy to answer any questions about the supervisor's memo or any of that I've shared with you. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one, excuse me. There's one other thing I wanted to share, which is I know that the town board was engaged in the process of the Learman Avenue Garden. I know there was a lot of hope for that to become affordable housing. I too wanted to see that become affordable housing, and I know there was some issues with making that so. We have been working with the garden leader, and we're reestablishing a garden at Aspen Court. I think it's a really important community for us to serve with a garden. I was in touch with the mayor about partnering on an event later this year, and we're really trying to do a garden raising at that location. I think it would help with safety and a sense of community for us to have an event at that location. So I'm really looking forward to us doing that. There's many things I could highlight about Solidarity Gardens. It's been a really lovely season, but that one in particular I'm excited about.
Any questions? Okay. Move on to, I assume there's no unfinished business. Oh, Ivana, did you have a question? No. Okay. New business. The resolution number T 2024-07-003R, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign an intergovernmental agreement with Champaign County Regional Plan Commission for rental assistance funds.
This is very simple. It's $15,000 from county ARPA dollars to help make up some of the gap that we saw in the rental assistance budget. I also just wanted to mention, I'm a little slow today, but we would usually have an end-of-year financial report for you, but because it's July 8th and the end of the year ended a week ago, and I've been out sick for 2 weeks, you will see the end-of-the-year report next month.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move approval of resolution T-2024-07-003R, a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign an intergovernmental intergovernmental agreement with Champaign County Regional Planning Commission for rental assistance funds.
Second?
I'll second.
Moved
I
by,
believe that should have been "and" instead of "and," but
yes. That was moved by James, seconded by Jaya. Discussion? Reese?
Regarding the rental assistance, Danielle, I thought that I know that, we have issue with rent burden here in Urbana. What I want to understand is, how are we distributing rental assistance now?
Yeah, so any Urbana resident who lives inside the city of Urbana can come to our office to fill out an application for rental assistance. They do need to have sufficient income to maintain that. That might be a new job or last 30 days of payroll receipts. And essentially, they need to have not received rental assistance within the last 2 years from any of our partners. And they can receive up to 2 months of rent. Currently, we have not changed those rules or constricted it at this point. And they will have a determination within 30 days. If their landlord needs a letter prior to that, which they oftentimes do, we can let the landlord know via a template that we have that we are currently processing rental assistance, and that they can be in contact with us directly, the landlord, if needed, about the status of that case. Usually rental assistance cases, I'm not going to promise that it doesn't sometimes take 30 days. It almost never takes 30 days. So if we have all the documentation in, which is the important part, we typically can turn it around within a week or 2 at the most.
Okay, so do those that apply for rental assistance, you're saying within 30 days they get the assistance?
Correct.
Okay.
Their landlord has actually mailed the check, or we deliver it if we have any issues with the mailing system.
So what's the uptick lately regarding rental assistance?
Yeah, so if you look at the supervisor's memo, we actually, I've kept a track of it just because it's been pretty significant. So if you look, let's see, general assistance, housing support, okay.
Something.
So rental assistance, so we received 73 applications in June, up from 34.
Okay.
And we spent about $44,000 on 32 households, up from 27. And generally speaking, we've seen, we always see an uptick over the summer as people lose hours at the university. In fact, in one day, we had 5 applications from the U of I because a camp they thought was going to happen was not, and the food service workers were cut in their hours. I'd really like to see the university address that, because basically a lot of times we're picking up the pieces for folks who hire seasonally. So I would say summer is usually higher, especially around this time of year, but I would say it's unusually high. If you recall, basically we were very regular before COVID at about 12 assistance cases a month. So 10 to 15 was really where it sat. So having 32 households in a month is almost 2 to 3 times the number of assistance cases that we saw pre-COVID. And pretty much since the pandemic, we've had a higher rate than that. And again, we've held those rules, which is every 2 years, we screen very carefully around that piece. And so it really is new households that are seeking that rental assistance. And I would say overall inflation, utility bills, like people trying to pick which bill to pay off or which one they can get support with, and I would say we're seeing more higher income people applying for rental assistance. So I would say the working poor, those who fit in the ALICE category that the United Way talks about, the working poor who might have 2 jobs, folks who have had savings in the past and have drained down their savings. We're seeing more of that. And so we have kept to 225% of the poverty level. We might need to drop that and cap it at a lower rate, and I am worried about those Alice households in terms of, being able to afford rent.
What do you think this is maybe due to, is it landlords raising rent? I've heard from a few people that landlords raising their rent $200.
Yes, I would say-
$150.
I would say all rents went up from between $100 to $300 more, probably averaging around $150 to $200 more. So we saw a big increase in the community. And then at the same time, we saw utility costs increase significantly. And those two things have really impacted residents. I would say, it would be worth looking at some of the unemployment stats. I know I've shared that with, if you go to Fred, which is out of St. Louis, it kind of tracks on a monthly basis the unemployment stats. And the last I looked, we did see had a decrease in unemployment pretty steadily, and then a recent, last 4 to 6 month increase in unemployment here locally.
Okay, thank you.
And, we have seen some large employers like Dart closed, and that's going to have consequences. I know Quaker Oats closed in Danville, as did the shelter there. So we saw migration to Champaign-Urbana as well. So there's, there has been, in some ways, some increase in precarity in those situations. And so I would say working people they're feeling it.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Miss Wu? Yes. Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Miss Hersey?
Yes.
Miss Colasetti?
Yes.
Miss Bishop?
Yes.
Miss Wilkin?
Yes.
Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes.
That motion passes. And with no further business before the Cunningham Town Board, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.